The crowd was a trap. How security feared a planned saseing ambush on Jungkook during Encore. What if the cheers weren't all genuine? What if, buried among thousands of screaming fans waving light sticks and singing every lyric, there were shadows lurking with an entirely different agenda? This wasn't paranoia. This was a warning. One security forces nearly missed until it was almost too late. During what was supposed to be an emotional high point in Jungkook's surprise appearance at a private US concert showcase, an unannounced encore planned to quietly celebrate his return to the stage. What looked like a flawlessly managed performance began unraveling behind the scenes. And now, with new revelations surfacing from internal reports, it's clear the crowd was more than just a sea of army purple. It was a trap. Insiders have confirmed that mere moments before Jungkook stepped out onto the runway stage for his final encore, security received a frantic alert from two plainclothes agents planted within the audience. Their message was short, sharp, and chilling. Someone's trying to breach the perimeter. At first, it was assumed to be a case of an overzealous fan. Not uncommon, not alarming, but as facial recognition software flagged not one, but three individuals wearing near-identical clothing and standing in different quadrants of the pit section. Security froze. One of those individuals had been previously blacklisted during a 2024 event in Busan. Another was known for stalking not just BTS, but also other K-pop idols abroad. The third? Completely unknown. But something about their presence, posture, and movement pattern had AI systems pinging red. They were all slowly shifting closer to the runway. And Jungkook? He was about to walk down that very path, singing the final lines of a reimagined Euphoria. For a brief, breathless moment, staff had a choice to make: shut the performance down immediately or stall Jungkook without alerting the crowd. They chose the latter. A backup dancer accidentally missed his cue, forcing the choreographer to briefly cut the music. Jungkook, visibly confused but professional, remained poised center stage as lights dimmed slightly. To the crowd, it looked like a technical hiccup. The guards swarming the pit. It was the moment to act. The three suspected saseangs were apprehended within minutes. One was found carrying a phone with a hacked Bluetooth beacon scanner. Another had managed to sneak in a hidden pinhole camera disguised as a brooch. But the most shocking find came from the third suspect, a QR-coded wristband that, according to one encrypted Telegram message found later, was part of an attempt to coordinate proximity and trigger contact. Let that sink in. Trigger contact. HYB Security has since referred to this in internal memos as a planned interference event, essentially an ambush orchestrated to reach Jungkook during a high-motion, low-visibility moment when his guard would be down. When he was most vulnerable, and had the alert come even 10 seconds later, it could have happened. The encore was eventually resumed, but the atmosphere had shifted. Jungkook sang, but fans who were close enough noticed his grip on the mic had changed. His eyes scanned the crowd with something colder than before. Not fear, necessarily, but caution. His performance didn't falter, but the innocence of the moment was gone. And then, right before the final note, he turned slightly, away from the crowd, and whispered a single line into the mic, barely audible. "Please not like this again." What did he mean? Those who knew that it was a call-out, a plea, a breaking point wrapped in melody. And as the lights dimmed, security moved tighter than ever before. No high fives. No fan gifts. No crowd walk. Just a swift, efficient escort backstage, where Jimin, who had been watching from a private control booth, met him with trembling hands and unshed tears in his eyes. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He just took Jungkook's hand and didn't let go. What happened backstage after that whisper, "Please not like this again," was not just an emotional fallout. It was a reckoning. Jungkook, normally the embodiment of composure even under immense pressure, reportedly collapsed onto a nearby chair the moment he crossed the safety threshold behind the curtain. His body was steady, but his eyes told the story his voice couldn't.
Glazed, disoriented.
Not from physical exhaustion, but from emotional overdrive. According to an internal staffer who witnessed the scene, it was Jimin who reached him first.
No manejes. No stylists.
Just Jimin, rushing in with unfiltered panic and instinctive protectiveness, the kind that doesn't ask for permission. Jimin knelt in front of Jungkook, placed both hands gently on his knees, and looked up into his eyes. Witnesses say he simply asked, "Did they touch you?" Jungkook shook his head, barely, but what he said next left everyone silent. "They didn't need to. I felt them before they moved." It was a sentence that echoed far beyond that room. It spoke of years of trauma, of rehearsed fear, of the learned habit of scanning crowds not for joy, but for danger. A habit that had begun in Korea and now followed them overseas, despite the promises of safety. What came next was swift, and unlike anything BTS's security structure had ever done before, HYB, shaken to its core, immediately escalated the event to level red security protocol. That same night, emergency meetings were held between HYB's U.S. liaison team and federal authorities. The Department of Homeland Security was reportedly briefed, not because BTS were political targets, but because the potential for fan escalation had crossed the threshold of typical celebrity concern. They were now classified as cultural assets at elevated risk. Within 48 hours, HYB began drafting a new policy. Upcoming concert venues would implement buffer zones, entire sections of front row seats designated as off-limits to the public to prevent potential sightseeing infiltration. Ticketing platforms like Ticketmaster and Weverse were ordered to cross-check accounts against known blacklists from Korea, Japan, and China. Armies were supportive, relieved, even, but some critics cried foul. Was this the death of fan artist intimacy? Would the magic of BTS concerts, always defined by closeness and connection, now become sterile and overguarded? But few knew what happened just minutes after Jungkook left that stage. A body mic, accidentally left on, recorded a private moment between Jungkook and Jimin in the narrow corridor behind the venue. The audio was never meant to be heard. It leaked through a stagehand who claimed he couldn't stay silent after hearing the rawest moment of humanity he'd ever witnessed. Jungkook, voice shaking, said, "Why is it always when I try to sing freely, something pulls me back?" Jimin didn't answer immediately, then, softly, "Because they're scared of how powerful you are when you're free." There was a pause, then Jimin added, "So don't stop. Let them be scared." That leak, once released anonymously online, spread like fire through the fandom, not just because of what was said, but because of the tone in which it was spoken. There was no theatrics, no drama, just two voices in a hallway, stripped bare of fame, armor, and stage light. Just brothers, just survivors. And perhaps that's why, despite the fear, despite the threats, HYB made the boldest decision yet. They announced a new initiative, Safe Stage Protocol 7.0, a cross-border task force combining Korean private security, U.S. federal support, cyber surveillance experts, and AI behavioral prediction models. All of it just to protect one artist. But Jungkook isn't just one artist. He's the youngest member of BTS. He's a symbol, a voice of a generation. And now, unintentionally, he's the center of a global conversation about fame, safety, and the unbearable cost of being adored without limits. Concerts weren't canceled. They were modified, more controlled, more calculated, but not silenced. And then, in an unexpected twist, Jungkook himself requested to go back on stage 3 days after the incident. Fallon's team received a message directly from Jungkook's legal liaison. He didn't want another blackout performance. He wanted to face the crowd again, but this time with a new song. A song he hadn't shared with anyone but Jimin. A track he'd written in the back of a hotel room in Busan months prior. Its title, No Distance. The lyrics, as leaked in rehearsal footage, included the haunting chorus. Even if you blur your name / even if you hide your face / I'll find you in the sound / and there, I'll be safe. There were no pyrotechnics.
No láseres.
Just Jungkook. And Jimin, walking quietly behind him, guitar in hand. The show aired unannounced. Again, no guests. Just BTS's youngest and his constant. And as the final note of No Distance faded, the camera captured something extraordinary. Jungkook finally smiling. Not forced, not cautious. A real, unfiltered smile, and the world, for a moment, could breathe again. As dawn broke over Seoul, thousands of fans, many still awake, clinging to every frame of the performance, received a simple Weverse notification. No image,
No fanfare.
just a live stream from jeon titled, I watched it too. What followed was 37 minutes of raw, unfiltered emotion. Jeon appeared on screen wearing a plain white t-shirt, eyes puffy, voice still cracking from sleep, or perhaps from the tears he didn't try to hide. He didn't start with greetings. He didn't smile. He just looked into the camera and whispered, I didn't expect him to smile like that. And then silence. Tens of thousands of comments flooded the chat in seconds. Purple hearts, crying emojis, pleas for OT7, and simple messages of love. But Jeon, ever the Hyung, spoke not as a celebrity, but as a brother. You all saw it, right? That was the real Jungkook. Not the one we protect. Not the one the label builds up. The real one, the kid who started all this when he was 15. The one we almost lost to silence. Then his voice broke, just slightly. Jimin, thank you. The live stream lasted less than an hour. But in that time, the global BTS fandom didn't just feel connected. They felt seen, and as if the universe were listening, hours later, Taehyung, known for his cryptic, poetic expressions, posted a black and white photo to Instagram, a close-up of handwritten lyrics on hotel stationery, zoomed in. The words were unmistakable. Even if you blur your name, he didn't tag anyone. He didn't need to. The message was clear. He heard the song. He felt it. He was with them. And then came the HYBE press release. Subtle, strategic, but seismic. A brief update titled 2025 BTS Anniversary Planning Underway, hinting at full member alignment pending schedule synchronization. It didn't confirm anything outright, but between the lines, fans read what they've waited over a year to hear. The seven will stand together again. Not for numbers, not for charts, but because the story isn't finished. Because through all the chaos, the sasying threats, the isolation, the silence, the shadows in the crowd, something survived. The music, the bond, the promise. And now, with one whispered encore, it's all coming back together.